This is Pod With Me. On today's show, we're gonna talk about the popular weed killer Roundup. Not so popular anymore since it causes cancer. Learn how we are consuming it, the effects, and the solution. Get ready, because the pod starts now.
They knew for decades that Roundup can cause cancer, and frankly, they just didn't care.
Ready.
Are you ready? Let's go.
Alex, are you ready to pod? Hey, are you all ready? We are ready. Let's get to it.
Ready.
This is Alex J. Aguiar, and you're listening to Pod With Me. Today we're talking about the popular weed killer Roundup. Eric Lem, who wrote the book Whitewash, which is the story of weed killer, cancer, and the corruption of science, tells us what this Roundup thing is all about.
There's a lot of science out there on glyphosate. Glyphosate is the main ingredient in Roundup, Monsanto's herbicides, and hundreds of other herbicide products sold around the world. Glyphosate by itself, there's quite a body of literature on that, but glyphosate in formulated products that people actually buy and use is something different, and that in fact is found to be much more toxic than glyphosate by itself when you combine it with surfactants and other chemicals in Roundup or in other products. So there's a host of epidemiology studies, toxicology studies, mechanistic data, and the weight of evidence, according to our international cancer experts, tell us that this is a probable human carcinogen. Glyphosate has also been found to be connected to reproductive problems, problematic birth outcomes for people. There's a range of science that shows liver and kidney ailments in animals that are treated or dosed with glyphosate. There's some evidence that it might be tied to acute myeloid leukemia. That was a recent government study that came out that showed that association. So there's a lot of things to be concerned about with glyphosate. And of course, this is the most widely used herbicide in the world.
Also, Dr. Nick Zarowski had great information from his video on YouTube, Drinking Roundup, Weed Killer, The Unfortunate Truth.
Now, when we talk about this weed killer being in your food and drink, we're talking about the active ingredient in Monsanto's weed killer known as glyphosate. There's been over 250 million pounds sprayed on American crops. Okay, once again, horrifying statistics here. The Environmental Working Group found that glyphosate was in your oats, cereal, and granola. Okay, so a lot of people are starting their day with a breakfast full of glyphosate. That's delicious. The Public Interest Advocacy Group tested 15 different beers and 5 wines. So once again, they're finding this in their beer. Now, this is just, the average person just loves to have some beer here and there, and then, unfortunately, they have glyphosate in it. So this is kind of opening up a bigger conversation, right? Like if this is in beer, is what's happening to the apple juice that kids are drinking, the orange juice that kids are drinking. And so anyway, we have to, take all of this stuff into consideration and look at the big picture. Recently, there was a gentleman who was a groundskeeper, and he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma at the age 42. He basically was able to correlate that directly to using this weed killer with glyphosate in it. He sued the company Monsanto that made it for around $280 million. He ended up with $78 million, but anyway, that was a groundbreaking lawsuit because you're talking about a gentleman who is reporting a problem that many people reported from being around this weed killer, and he actually went up against a mega billion-dollar company and he won. Okay, so he got around $78 million. And since then, 9,300 similar lawsuits have been filed against the company because people are developing a lot of different health issues from it. Okay. There's been some pilot studies to find that glyphosate to impact sexual development, DNA structure, proteins, and gut health. Levels in the human bloodstream have increased 1,000% since 2 decades ago. Okay, that's like a devastating statistic. Once again, how much is a safe level to have when you're looking at a carcinogen? How much is a safe level to have in the body? And my answer is none, of course. But of course, the EPA thinks that there is a safe level. The World Health Organization and the International Agency for Research on Cancer deem glyphosate as a probable human carcinogen. Okay, and I think that it's really crazy that there's these conversations going on like, well, it might cause health concerns. Like drinking a carcinogen or eating a carcinogen chronically day in and day out is going to cause health concerns. Like, how could it not? When we look at how it affects the body, let's talk about the liver. It's been known to alter the ability of the liver to detox. It disrupts the phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification process by disrupting the cytochrome P450. It increases oxidative stress on the liver. We're talking about glyphosate increasing oxidative stress, dramatically increase in liver cancer, cirrhosis, and fatty liver disease in young people. Okay, there's a dramatic increase in these liver problems in people. Okay, so all the time I talk about detox, and there's some people who go, well, Dr. Zarowski, there's no reason to detox because your body has a natural ability to detox. So why would you, focus on doing some of these detoxes that you do? I've done lots of videos on them, but basically this is why. Because if you're chronically consuming glyphosate, and then on top of that glyphosate, you are actually going and getting chemicals from your beauty products. You're getting chemicals from or you're getting carcinogens from the chemicals in your home that you're cleaning with, the toxins that are coming from the clothing that you're wearing, your bedding. So all of these things are just an absolute onslaught to the body. And the body, of course, yes, is designed to actually remove toxins from it. But when you're talking about an onslaught of this many different toxins coming at you all at once, and then of course the liver's job is to actually get rid of them, well, here's one of the reasons we're seeing a major problem with people having liver issues. Okay, next is gut health. Okay, and we're just trying to bring up a couple conversations. There's so many different health problems related to this, but gut health, it disrupts the microbiome. Okay, research out there showing it disrupts the microbiome. Colon cancer is rising dramatically. Okay, that's another issue, a major issue for today. And then also there's mood disorders rising. And I say mood disorders because what we know is that when gut health is disrupted, the microbiome is disrupted. It disrupts how the brain functions. It disrupts your hormones. It disrupts every aspect of your body. The gut is a really, really critical part of your entire health. And that when we look at the gut, the microbiome, and that means the bacteria within the gut is very important as well. Okay, so it's going to disrupt your entire health.
Very powerful and wealthy corporations really hold sway in Washington, and you see it in my book in Whitewash. I lay out a lot of the evidence that these lawmakers and policymakers, people in the administration, they really are doing the bidding of the giant corporations in many respects, and they definitely are putting corporate profit ahead of public interest. That every player and everyone working in the industry is out to deceive us, because clearly that's not true. There are very many good people and good scientists and others who are working hard to grow more food and to do things that are good for the environment and to try to reduce pesticide use in some cases. But there is also a great deal of evidence that the opposite occurs as well. That when scientific evidence builds about the danger of a product, or we see how it is harmful to the environment, that rather than respond in an appropriate and responsible manner that's protective of public interest, what we see time and time again is the corporations working to protect their own interest.
Just like Carrie Gillam just said, luckily for us, not everybody is corrupted. And guess what? I have proof right here with co-founder and executive vice president of Messina's, James Messina. How are you, James?
I'm doing well. How are you, Alex?
I'm good. James, tell everybody what Messina's is all about.
Messina's is a manufacturer of lawn and garden products. We do things like fertilizers and weed killers, natural alternatives to some of the harsher chemicals that you're reading about in the news. We've been in business for about 20 years. And I started the business back in the late 90s with my father, Jim. Bringing some of his early inventions to the masses all around the country and now to about 5 or 6 countries around the globe.
Is absolutely amazing. And ever since you started with your family, was that your passion?
Absolutely. Selling lawn and garden products was not where I envisioned myself some 20, 30 years ago. But I went to college for visual media and did a lot of marketing and product design, logos, all that kind of stuff. So I took all the skills I learned and parlayed it into this business. And it was just kind of a natural extension. It worked out really well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about, there's a lot of controversy right now happening, and you have a product that is magic.
Yeah, so if you're reading the newspapers, if you have newspapers anymore, but if you're online and you're reading the news or watching TV, there's no shortage of commercials and stories about folks that are looking for alternatives to a product called Roundup and the active ingredient glyphosate. It's been in lawsuits. It's been popping up in your food, and so it's used by consumers in their gardens, but it's also used by agricultural farmers, large scale operations, small scale operations to keep weeds down in crops. And as a result, it's getting into some of the things that are then harvested and put into foods like Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
How does it get into Ben and Jerry's ice cream?
So the science of glyphosate is that it's a systemic product. That means that the plants actually absorb this product and it kills them from the inside out. Well, along the way, the makers of this product also created something called a Roundup resistant crop, so that way farmers could spray it more liberally without worrying about damaging the edible food, corn and soy and all that kind of stuff. As a result, as I said, the product is systemic. When it gets absorbed now, the plants are not dying and they're getting harvested. So those vegetable crops, the grains and so forth, are being harvested, and the chemical is still within the plant itself. And so when a food company, whether it's like I said, Ben and Jerry's, Cheerios, even some beer manufacturers, when they buy their raw ingredients, they don't really realize it, but they're bringing in the chemical with the raw material as well. So it's in the corn, in the grain. And then that's then processed and turned into food and beverages that people are consuming day in and day out all around the country.
Wow, this is just terrible, because people think, or people that make a health conscious decision to be healthy, they're really jumping into fire.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, my wife and I became vegetarians about 4 years ago. We thought we were doing something really good for our health. And now we realize, here's a whole other thing we have to worry about that we weren't even considering. And so it's one of those things that people who are trying to eat healthy, who are trying to, live off of a plant-based diet especially, are finding that they can't escape this. And it's also in the meat-based products as well. Animals who come in contact with the grain as well have the danger of ingesting these products. We brought a product out in the market that's a great alternative. It's called Pulverize, and it does not use the same active ingredients. It actually is for organic gardening, and it's getting a lot of attention. It's in about 10,000 retailers around the country, with some test opportunities at Home Depot and Walmart, major retailers, because they realize consumers are looking for alternatives, and we're here to let the world know that we have some.
You guys were not the first ones to do an organic product like this, but the other ones failed because they probably went by, I don't know, they were trying to their focus was probably just getting their product out on the shelves and making money, and they weren't focusing on what the ingredients should really be. Is that probably why they didn't have the success that you guys are having now?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of different factors. Natural products tend to be manufactured by smaller companies who maybe don't have the experience like we have with 20 years of history in the industry and knowing the retailers and the buyers that we do know. Couple that with the mom and pop approach, it sometimes is less appealing packaging, less efficacy data, the stuff that actually proves the product performs as well as it does. The products are rushed out to market really quickly. And so what we found, especially when it comes to herbicides and herbicides that are for organic gardening like ours, we think we cracked the code with a really powerful name like Pulverize, with really great packaging that consumers can take a look at and realize the products are probably going to be effective, and then be able to back it up with actual product performance that not only impresses them, but gets them to come back and keep buying it year after year.
So what is your challenge right now to get this out there? I mean, it's a no-brainer from this side, but it all boils down to the power of the company as well, probably, and their reputation and how long they've been and their commercials. Because their commercials look amazing. I was looking at some of the commercials, but they don't put no warning signs. Maybe after all these lawsuits, they must put the warning sign. What's your take on this?
So the biggest hurdle for us is scale. You're talking about billion-dollar companies who have longevity in the marketplace, products that have been around for 20, 30, 40 years, brand names that consumers really know and that they're looking for. We certainly don't have a megaphone big enough to shout over them. And so we're looking, from the ground up to work with folks like, podcasters and moms groups. We're working with moms across America right now, and we're trying to get the word out in as judicious way as possible. Really working with folks who are interested in using natural type products. Change never comes from the top. Change never comes from folks in power. And if you think it's going to, it's insane to even believe that. Change comes from people like you and I, people who want to actually see something different in the marketplace. So we're doing our part to really try to think smarter and act smarter and spread our word almost like an underground movement until finally it's so well known and so popular that it can't be denied anymore.
Where can people come see your products and know a little bit more about you?
So they can go to pulverize.com, pulverize.com. That's you can find it on Amazon. You can find it at more than 800 Walmarts around the country, about 100 Home Depots, and at local garden centers, Ace Hardwares, True Values. It's really starting to pop up everywhere. And if they don't have it, feel free to ask for it by name and tell them that you want the store to start carrying Pulverize, because I can assure you, we launched the product 3 years ago, and we were in a handful of stores. And a year ago, we were in 6,000 stores. And this year, we're in 10,000 stores. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And we couldn't be any more excited about the potential for the brand.
It's mind-blowing. Okay, so what do you have to say to those people out there that use Roundup? Is there a message for them?
Sure. My message is really simple. If you're looking for an alternative, and we know you are, we hope that you will give a natural product, a product that's for organic gardening, an opportunity to prove to you that there are options. And that, there is so much noise out there right now about the safety of products that contain glyphosate. And while we certainly haven't done the research ourselves, and I can't tell you definitively one way or another, while the dust settles and while folks are debating this at a much higher level than we are and that the average consumer is, we want you to know you have an option while you continue to hear what the information is that's coming out. And we're here to just basically say, look, give us a shot. Let us show you what these products can do, and maybe change your life and maybe help you use products in your own backyard, in your neighborhood, that have less of an environmental impact than others.
James, thank you for being here with us and sharing this information. And one more thing.
What?
Don't fall off
the pod.
For more on Pod With Me, you can go to alexjaguilar.com. There, you can discover what platform works best for you to listen to the pod. And please follow us on our social media. On Instagram, we're Pod With Me. And on Facebook, we're Pod With Me AJA. This is Alex J. Aguiar, and until next time, don't fall off the pod.
Credit.